Hello everyone, my name is Chris Green. I hope you're doing well. In today's video, I want to help you answer the question, how do you release your music on platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, and more? Believe it or not, it's simpler than it ever has been, and it's a lot more affordable than you think it is. I remember back in high school, I thought that getting my music up on iTunes would be the biggest thing ever. Like I landed a Rolling Stone magazine cover. It's gotten way more easy, and there are many different platforms that you can use. So today I'm going to cover 3 simple steps. And then of course, with each of those steps, you can get more detailed if you want. I want to encourage you, if you enjoyed this kind of content, you're interested in making and recording music, hit the like and subscribe buttons for more videos just like this. Now let's get started with 3 simple steps to get your music released. So the first step in our process is that you need to have a finished recorded song. If you don't know how to record music, I've got many tutorials on my channel specifically framed as recording your first song. I use a program called PreSonus Studio One. You can use so many different types of software out there. They have GarageBand, which is free. You can use Ableton Live, Logic Pro, you can use Pro Tools. It really doesn't matter what sort of software you're using to produce your music, but you need to have a produced and finished song. One thing I want to mention when it comes to mixing and mastering your music is that you need to make sure that your music is of a substantial amount of volume. Okay, so a very rough mix or something that sounds very unprofessional is something that is very, very quiet. You might be, when you're recording your music, you might have your headphones turned up really loud. But have you ever noticed, like when you're listening to some music, some songs seem to be a lot quieter than others? Well, that's when it comes to the process of mastering. So a simple tip, without getting into the weeds for this video, is that whatever song you've been working on, make sure you put a limiter at the end of your mix. So here I've got a country song that I made ironically and kind of sarcastically here on my YouTube channel. I've got a video on this song specifically if you want to check that out later. But when it comes to the mix, the very end of my chain, I have what's called a limiter plugin. Now this is a fancy one from FabFilter. It's called the FabFilter Pro L2. It is a fantastic plugin. It is worth your money if you're looking at spending money on any of these plugins. Now, PreSonus and other DAWs out there, they have their own versions of a limiter, but a limiter is going to basically create this brick wall that your volume of your track cannot go beyond. And it's up to you how much you want to push into that brick wall. But what we're looking to do is to add volume to our song without clipping. If you don't put a limiter in place, you're going to have this distortion and these weird artifacts that really don't sound great. So with a limiter, basically this plugin is allowing me to add 4 decibels of volume to my mix. And as you'll see on the screen, you'll see the waveforms spiking with my music. It is going up to the top, and every now and then, so slightly, you'll see it makes a reduction. And that's basically the song is hitting that limiter. I don't want to do too much limiting because when it comes to Spotify and Apple Music, they're going to adjust the volume of your tracks for you. But the thing to keep in mind is more often they will turn down loud songs, but they don't usually turn up quiet songs. So step number 1, make sure you have a produced song and make sure that it is of substantial volume. So here's a look at the FabFilter limiter plugin. So on PreSonus Studio One, when my song has a sufficient enough mix, it's got the limiter in place, so I'm getting a little bit more volume out of my track. I basically want to export my song. When I export my song in PreSonus Studio One, I'm just going to hit Song, Export Mixdown. I'll give this a name. This song's name is Where I Come From. Now I've exported this previously already, so I'll call this one Final Version 2. Very catchy. When I export my song, I want to make sure that it is a WAV file. When you're exporting your song, do not export an MP3. Platforms like DistroKid or your distributor, they'll give you a warning if you try to upload an MP3. It's because an MP3 is very much a low quality file. Try to make sure that it is a WAV and it is at least a 16-bit, although I would just say keep it at 24-bit, 48K at least. I've got it exporting between the start, song, and end. If I click OK, now Studio One is going to give me a digital file that I'm going to be using when it comes to uploading this song to the platforms. So as you can see on screen, Studio One has given me my WAV file, and this is what I'm going to be using when it comes to uploading to DistroKid for release. Now I've got this file and you can put it wherever you want. You can send it to your desktop. Just make sure you know where that file is because we'll need to come back to it later. Now, step number 2, we need to talk about your album artwork. This is something that we don't hear talked about quite a lot here on YouTube, but I do want to show you the process of how I'm making my album art cover using a program called Canva. All right, when you first get into Canva, you very much can use just the free version. The pro version has a lot of fluff, has a lot of extra elements that you may find useful in the future, but for now you can get by with the free version. I'll show you how to build this album artwork from scratch. I'll show you my process and you can adapt it to as you need. I know this is very opinionated. Your album artwork should and probably doesn't look the same as mine, but in Canva, I want to go to create a design. You can type in something like album art if you want, and it will give you recommendations. I recommend you stick to 1400 by 1400 because the dimensions of your artwork do need to be a square, okay? It needs to be a square. So 1400 by 1400. When you create your design, it's probably gonna look like this, where it is just a white square. First thing I wanna mention is you may wanna just use a template. So in order to use a template, you're gonna go over here to Design, and then on the Design tab, you have the templates selected. You can type in whatever you want. If I want my template to be based on moon, I can type in moon. And then when I do a search, it has all these pictures of the moon and all these templates that I can definitely put to use. If I click this one here, it will load all of the elements for that artwork here on Canva. I can go in and edit this text. I can put where I come from. I can put my name down here. I can make it say Chris Green. Great music. That sounds good. It's got this little icon. I don't guess I can edit that, but you can use the templates. Templates are great, but you may notice that a lot of people in the world are using the same templates. So always making something unique will probably go a lot farther than using a template, but I want you to be aware of that if you're new to designing any of that sort of stuff. Now, if you're not going to go the route of using a template, here's something very quick that I make use of all the time, especially here on YouTube. This is how I make my thumbnails. We basically just have a white square. You can click up here. If you have the white square selected, go up to pick a background color, select any color that you want. I went with this kind of greenish color. And then what Canva allows you to do is you can actually drag and drop photos into Canva that you can edit later. So I took a picture of myself here in this room. I can go to my uploads. I can scroll through till I find, here's one of them here. Now you're looking at this photo and you're wondering, well, there's all that stuff in the background. Well, a big element of a pro version of Canva is that you have a background remover. So if I just click background remover, now it has removed the background, leaving me. I can resize this. And not only can you resize it, you can also go through and make edits. So I can click this and go edit. I want to adjust the edit. I can add some brightness. I can remove some contrast. I can mess around with the colors, etc. You can also use like a drop shadow. There's more fancy techniques. If you're interested in Canva stuff, let me know in the comment section. But primarily, I don't want to get too bogged down in Canva. The next thing you may want to add is a text box. You can simply just click heading. It will add a text box where you can go in and like I put where I come from. I can select that text. I can blow it up to be as large as I want it to be. About that. Maybe change it to 2 lines there. I'll take this text and I'm going to change the text to white. And then I can't really see the text very well, so I'm going to go to Effects, and you can do a shadow. Shadow, you can make the shadow black, make it stand out a little bit more. Okay. You can enlarge the text. You can pretty much go crazy with Canva, make it however you want it to be. And a big element with Canva is layering. So if you're not familiar with Photoshop or any of these kind of design processes, you need to have everything in layers and you know how those layers interact with each other. Obviously, this text is sitting on top of my forehead. If I want to move that text to be behind my forehead, I can simply right-click this text box. I can go to layer and I can send backward. As soon as I send it backward, now the text is like floating behind my head. I can move it around and have something very much like that. So when you're done with this process on Canva, you want to click share and then click download. And then what you need to have is at least a PNG. PNG is going to be a higher file quality than something like a JPEG. I set it to PNG, and then what I want to export is just page 2. I click download. Now it's going to download the picture, and I'll have an audio file ready to upload to DistroKid. And then I've got my album artwork as well, which will come in handy, okay? Now, step number 3 has to do with DistroKid. DistroKid is the platform that I use to release my music. There are, of course, many different options out there. I've just been using DistroKid. If you're interested in using DistroKid, again, there's links in the descriptions. Basically, DistroKid is going to give you your music all over the place, and it's got a lot of benefits that we'll get to in just a second. Again, this is not a sponsored video. I do want to look at what DistroKid has currently for their pricing so that you can know what you're getting into. For most of you out there, I highly recommend you check out the musician tier, which is the most basic form of DistroKid. It's going to be about $1.92 a month or $22.99 billed annually. That's going to give you access to one artist. If you yourself are the recording artist, you'll be just fine with the musician package. You'll be able to put your music on Spotify, iTunes, etc. You're just going to get more features that you can look at if you go over to the compare plans page. My wife and I are 2 different people and 2 different artists. So if I want to upload something as Chris Green and she wants to upload something as Lana Green, we obviously need to have a plan that covers more than one person. So we go with the 2 artists plan, and it's been working out pretty well. Now, when you have your DistroKid plan, you need to go to upload. So if you want to upload, we want to upload our music. First thing first, it's going to ask, where do we want to upload our music? Personally, I don't see any sort of negative in you uploading to many different platforms, but something I did with this recent release of where I come from, just so I could try it out, I basically wanted to limit the amount of places that I'm having the music uploaded. So I'm personally sticking to something like Spotify, Apple Music. I'm not uploading to YouTube Music for my own channel's sake. I'm uploading to iTunes and Amazon. Those are the biggest ones. Everything else, it just gets really finicky. So if you don't have a social media presence or a social media profile on those websites, like I personally do not use TikTok, so I don't want my music on TikTok because I'll never know what's happening with it. If my music is getting stolen, or maybe they're making a bunch of money off of my music on TikTok, I'd have no way of knowing about it because I don't even have the app. So go through and select which of these you want to have uploaded. Obviously, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Tidal perhaps, and then iTunes. Those are going to have some of the biggest numbers coming from those. Next is going to ask you, how many songs are you uploading? So for most of you out there, it's probably going to be a single. If you're just doing a single release, it's obviously going to be 1 song. But if you're doing something like my wife's Hymns album, I believe we had 12 tracks. I would be selecting 12. But for this, it's just 1 song. Has this song or single previously been released? No, it hasn't. If it has been, if you're doing like another version, like a radio edit or some sort of remix, then you probably need to check yes. Now it's going to ask you the artist or band name. Obviously, my name is Chris Green, but this is the name that you want shown on the profile. So when you go on Spotify, if you don't use your name, like instead of Chris Green, if I wanted to go as Country McGregor, if I had like a fake name that I wanted to use, I would put Country McGregor. It's asking what artist name do you want to be visible on the profile. All right, now it's asking you, do you already have a Spotify artist page? Do you already have a music page? It says we're all set. If you have something associated with Apple Music or any of these profiles already in YouTube Music, you need to make sure you select it, or you can select Chris Green doesn't yet have an artist profile in Apple Music. Already on Instagram, no, Chris Green doesn't have a profile on Instagram. No, Chris Green doesn't have a profile on Facebook. Now it's going to ask you your release date. Release date is very important. Do not release your music the same week that you upload it. Why? Is because the distributor, it takes a long time for this music to get sent. So you at least need to be, I would say, at least 10 days out from your release. So at the time of this recording, it is December 20th. I would be setting this release for somewhere around January 2nd or January 3rd. It also has to do with marketing. If you want to spread the word about your music being released, you need to give yourself time for these platforms to have the music uploaded. It doesn't happen instantly, but you will get emails along the way. It'll say, hey, your music's ready on Apple Music. Hey, your music's ready on Spotify. Just give yourself at least 10 days out for everything to be set up. Record label, you can simply just put whatever you want. We use Green Family Music. Language is English. Primary genre, where do you want your music associated? So with this one, I would put country music, and then I will not put a secondary genre. All right, here we go. This is where we want to have our album cover. This is the artwork that we made in Canva. It's recommending that you upload a 3000 by 3000 JPEG format. So if you're using Canva, you want to go in and use 3000, that's fine. Click here to upload the image. We can select the image that we created. Click OK. There we go. Track title 1. This is the name of the song. I'm going to name this one, Where I Come From. Don't use any punctuations or anything unless you want that to be tied into your song. Where I Come From is the name of the song. Don't show any other artists in the title. This is the normal version. It's going to give you kind of a preview of what the song is going to look like on Spotify and other platforms. Now we need to upload the audio file. This is the file that we got from PreSonus Studio One. So I'm going to select the audio file. I can go into Songs, Country Song, in my mix downs, and here we have Where I Come From. This is the WAV file. I'll click Open. And before I upload it, it's got a few more questions here. Dolby Atmos, no, it is not. Singer-songwriter, cover song. I wrote this song. It's very important. If you're going to do a cover songs will cost you extra money. That's because you're covering someone else's song. This happened on the Hymns album. My wife sang the song Because He Lives, which is a Bill Gaither song. So in addition to our normal upload process, if we're doing a cover song, she had to add another like $12 or so for it to be up for the year. Since this is an original song, I don't have to mark that. Singer-songwriter's real name, music, and lyrics. Christopher Green. Explicit lyrics. Do you have any language or cussing in there? You can put yes or no. No, the song is clean and always has been. Instrumental. The song contains lyrics. You can answer those questions as you're going. Now, I believe on the basic package, you cannot set your pricing for iTunes other than 99 cents, but for the most part, 99 cents, $1.29, it's not going to make that big of a difference. All right, it wants me to add credits for the song on release, and then it's going to give you some extras if you want to add those on. You totally don't have to do this. If you've already spent money on the musician plan, you don't want to spend any more. Just scroll all the way down to the bottom, check off these check boxes, click continue, and then it's going to ask you if you want DistroKid to master your music. It's totally up to you. I've never done the mastering process, but just keep things simple. Continue all the way through. It will upload your music ready for release. All intents and purposes, once you've uploaded your music and you've scheduled it for release, you should be good to go. Next steps, you obviously want to go into each of those platforms, Spotify, Apple Music. Make sure you have an artist profile created and that you have the rights to that account. You might have to have some sort of email with the companies or platforms to let them know this is my artist profile. It'll go through sort of like a security check where you have to answer some questions, and then you should have access to your artist profile so that you can log into each of those platforms and see your own stats. Now in DistroKid, you can also look at your own stats, how much money or revenue is coming in. But just know when you're using DistroKid and streaming platforms, this is not a day-to-day updated thing. It's usually about a month or maybe even 2 months delayed in the stats. And what they're doing is they're basically checking in the background, making sure that you're not abusing the system and that it's not a bunch of bots running your music. It does take quite a while for you to start seeing some revenue coming in from DistroKid. With that being said, those are the 3 steps to get your music up and released. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you want more content like this or any specific areas, be sure to drop a comment in this video. Hit the like and subscribe buttons and let me know kind of what your interests are or what you might be struggling with. I'd be happy to help as well. So the 3 simple steps: make sure you have your music that's edited, produced, and set to appropriate volume. Make sure you have your album artwork ready, and then use a platform like DistroKid. All the links are in the description of this video to get your music up and released. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.